Another way that angles are sometimes measured is something called a bearing. And that's when you're giving directions. So bearings are important for ships and stuff, what direction they should head. And so there are many different ways to write bearings. We're going to look at 3 of them. Okay? Here they have west 30 degrees south. So when you write it this way, and we'll call this method 1 of writing a bearing, this means start at west and head 30 degrees south. So can you see on the diagram that it's starting at west and it's going 30 degrees south? This same thing is sometimes written this way. "30 degrees south of west." When it's written this way, when you read it, can you see that it's the same thing? But, right? You're still starting at west, but now it's written backwards. And the last way that it is written would be as a bearing, and as a bearing, bearings always start from north. And so this would be 90 plus 90 plus 60. So 90, 180 plus 60 would be a bearing of 240 degrees. So for this second one, we could call this starting at west and going 40 degrees north. Or we could say 40 degrees north of west. Or we could call this a bearing, and if this is 90, 180, 270 plus 40, a bearing of 310 degrees. So looking at our second example, a forest ranger sees smoke rising from a point that lies in the direction of east 40 degrees north. So again, if we draw this out, this is north here, east and west and south. And did you ever learn a crazy way to remember it? Some people have no problem with the north and south, but they get the east and west mixed up. Right? So sometimes people look and say, oh, this spells the word we. I don't know if that helps you. When I was in school, they taught us never eat soggy wieners. Has anyone ever heard that? So it's like, I don't know why that's still around, but it is. Some way to remember it. Now in this one, a forest ranger sees smoke rising from the point that is east. So we would start at east, starting at east, go 40 degrees towards the north. Here is, well, we better make this good. There we go. So there's the smoke rising from that little hot red point at east 40 degrees north. She estimates that the distance from the ranger station is about 30 kilometers. But there's no road that goes exactly 30 kilometers that way, but there are roads that go north and south, east and west. So the firefighter needs to travel this way first and then this way to find and get to the fire. So we need to find how far is it along here for the X and how far along is it here for the Y to get there. Well, let's find our X first. It's a right angled triangle. You can use SOHCAHTOA. What do we know? We know the hypotenuse. And so when we're thinking about finding X, since you know the hypotenuse, it's either going to be sine or cosine. And what are we trying to find? We're trying to find the adjacent side. So we want to find the adjacent side. So that's telling us that we're going to need to use cosine. Writing this out then, cosine of 40 degrees, its definition is the adjacent side, which is x, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 30. We can multiply both sides by 30 to get x by itself. Take out our calculator. And we get 22.98, which is roughly 23 kilometers. We can do the same thing for y. Now with SOHCAHTOA, y is opposite. We still know the hypotenuse. So we would set up our definition for sine. Multiply both sides by 30. Type that into our calculator, 19.3, which rounded to the nearest kilometer would be 19. The word problem should end with a statement. (23 plus 19) is 42 kilometers. 23 kilometers to the east, and then 19 kilometers to the north. Oh, it says how far should they travel in each direction? They should travel 23 kilometers east and 19 kilometers north. All right. Questions to practice 7 and 11.